A young George and his family settle into a rundown house that still doesn't even have power. One evening, their mom takes a single hamburger and splits it 4 ways for her kids. George, absolutely starving, is ready to dig in, but his sister Mary stops him. They have to say a prayer first. Though he's clearly impatient, George holds off. As soon as the prayer ends, he swallows his piece in one big bite and jokes that he's so hungry he could eat the table. Seeing how hungry he still is, Mary generously gives him half of her share, always believing in her brother's potential. That same night, their mom sits George down and gives it to him straight. If he fails school again, it'll be nearly impossible to catch up.
You promise me you won't fight.
She begs him to stay out of fights and focus on his studies. The next day, things aren't any easier. At school, kids stare at him because of the way he looks. In class, George raises his hand to answer a question, but the teacher overlooks him, choosing a well-dressed student instead, someone with clean clothes and shiny shoes. Lunchtime isn't much better. George sits alone, no food in front of him, while everyone else eats. One boy mocks him for not having anything, then cruelly throws a piece of gross food at him like he's a dog, daring him to fetch it. Furious, George throws a punch straight at the kid's face. When the teacher shows up, he bolts. Looking back, George realized that his go-to reaction was always anger, and beating people up was the one thing he felt truly good at. A few years go by, and we see George hanging out with a friend outside a bar when a drunk guy stumbles out. They decide to trail him, thinking they'll rob him, only to find out he's actually an undercover cop running a sting. The officer quickly turns the tables and backup shows up fast, triggering a chase. George manages to get away by crawling under a house. When the cops arrive with a tracking dog, George covers himself in sewage to mask his scent. The trick works. Neither the dog nor the officers spot him. As George heads home, he catches a commercial on a TV in a store window. It's for Job Corps, offering free meals and drinks to dropouts. The program also gives job training and pays its students, which grabs George's attention. Fired up, he rushes home to tell his mom he wants to enroll. She's on board, reminding him he's got more in him than he thinks. But she urges him to follow through this time. No quitting early just because he misses home. Not long after, George shows up at the Job Corps Center in California. At the gate, a guard lays out the ground rules. Inside, he immediately bumps heads with a guy named Desmond over a bed. Desmond brushes it off like it's no big deal.
It's just a bed, man.
Later, George finds a fresh pair of Converse and a note from his mom tucked in his duffel bag. Desmond notices and looks on, clearly jealous. When George struggles in his electrical class, the others laugh at him. He shoots them a hard stare. He's clearly someone who's used to handling things the rough way. The following day, Desmond is blasting music while George is trying to focus on studying. Annoyed, George walks over and pulls the plug on the record player. Desmond, a bit amused, asks if George has a problem with music. George snaps back, saying maybe he does,